Hello and welcome to Mindset Kitchen. My name is Diana Paliokaite and I'm the host of the show. In my kitchen today, I have Rob Hosking, a former frontline police officer and right now considered as a Mighty Motivator. Rob, hello. What a pleasure to have you here.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure. It's definitely been a bit of a journey from former frontline police officer to motivational speaker, to say the least. But it's been a journey that's got me here today, and everything happens for a reason. So I'm very, very blessed to be here.
And I'm very fortunate to have you here in my kitchen. And I cannot wait to delve deeper into your 3 mindset messages and cook a delicious meal for you. So before we get on any further, can you just give me a little introduction about yourself, a little bit more?
Yeah.
Perhaps maybe the times when you were the police and why you are here now?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm Rob Hosking. I was a police officer from 22 years old to 27. And I always say when I talk about my story that my story kind of begins at 22 years old. And it's because that's kind of when my life started changing and I started seeing many different things happening in my life. And I put that down to the police journey and the things I saw, the trauma, the stress, all these things that really impacted my mental health. Because before then, I had a really good childhood, went to university. I had a trouble-free, as much as the trouble-free childhood can be, living in Northern Ireland. But it was a very good childhood. And then at 22 years old, quite naive, quite young, carefree, joining the police kind of changed my life around. And, I'm here today because of the experiences in the police. There's so many good experiences, but many bad experiences. But I also used the mindset to be like, these bad experiences have made me who I am today, and I've adapted to all these lessons that they've taught me along the way. So I'm blessed, to say the least, that I've had these experiences, even though that probably sounds very messed up because there's a lot of trauma that was involved for these years. I hit rock bottom in my mental health and a last ever shift, which just completely changed my life forever. And when we probably talk a little bit more about them, people will probably realize how messed up it sounds that I'm blessed that I've had these experiences. But I am blessed because I do believe everything happens for a reason, and I'm here today because of these experiences.
Thank you. That's a beautiful summary. And I truly can relate. All I say to my past experiences always, I'm blessed as well. Although, as painful as they were, I would not have chosen to have them, but they did. So the best we can do is be grateful and turn them around, I guess.
100%. Like, people may think it's toxic positivity, but you have to feel your feelings, of course. But there's also a time where you think, well, do I always just wallow in self-pity? Do I always just hate the world because these traumas and these bad experiences happen to us? We just can't do that because we just spiral and we're not going to live any form of life. So the only way to look at them is, well, what did they teach me? Did they teach me how blessed life is? Do they teach me so many different things about life and how I want to live life going forward? All these things that you can learn from bad experiences. Easier said than done at the time, because it takes you a lot of time to heal from these experiences, no matter how bad they may be. And we'll heal at different times, and it might take us longer depending on the different experiences. But as long as we get to that stage, the positivity, where we think, yeah, but what did that lesson teach us? And like you said, I do not want to repeat any of these lessons. I would never want to repeat them. They're the worst days of my life. But I can sit here with you now and say that I'm very blessed to have them. So it's a good mindset to have, and probably helps me and why people describe me as the Mighty Motivator, because I can use these bad experiences to help other people.
So all of these experiences you put down, not all, I assume not all, sorry, I actually just assumed, some of the experiences you put them into your 3 mindset messages. So I'm going to read them and they are brilliant. And you can see, I was trying, every time I think about the messages that my guests bring, I could try and visualize and see what it is that is behind them. And it's almost like a surprise always revealed, because every single message has a story, and that's why it's just so incredible to have people like you here. But before I read the first message, I'm going to briefly tell you what I'm cooking. And you have chosen the meal, which made my life so much easier because I did not have to think and maybe tune in into your energy and
Yes.
think what he would like. Because
Yes.
many guests come and say, surprise me, or I like
Did they?
chicken,
Okay.
or I don't like this, everything
I was
else.
very determined.
You're
Like, I will tell
very
you what
specific.
I like and don't like, and there's
And
many don't likes.
yeah, so I'm grateful you have given me exactly the meal you wanted me to cook. So it's paneer korma, and I do love paneer. So if I order, I have a really delicious Indian restaurant here. It's a restaurant, but they also do takeaways.
Okay.
So I always order paneer on the side, but I've never attempted to cook myself until probably a couple of months ago.
Okay.
Because I was ordering that on the side, I was like, I would love to learn to cook. And I cooked various ways, and I found that grilling paneer before putting in a curry is, or grilling or slightly pan frying. So this morning, as you were on the way, I was pan frying the paneer. It's right here waiting, because then it adds a little bit of extra flavor and even like keeps it soft inside and slightly crunchy on the outside. I know you're an expert probably on paneer because you chose this, so you please do not judge too much.
No.
And then I've made my own korma paste, which I love making my own paste. And I made that yesterday as well, because it has taken some time to add all the 15 ingredients probably.
Wow.
So I'm not going to list the ingredients. I'm going to put the recipe that I've used. And if anyone wants to replicate that or yourself, you will find it. And it's going to be served with, it's going to go with spinach as well, and served with a rice, white rice and flatbread, which I will cook. But having tried yesterday the flatbread, good enough, but not how I would love it. But you know what? I'll let you decide it, because I'm not the person who makes flatbreads, unfortunately. And I always like to have the flatbread or like naan bread with Indian. So I'll cook it for you today. And you don't have to eat it if you don't enjoy it.
I'm sure it'll be brilliant. I'm sure it'll be brilliant.
It only has milk, butter, and you're okay with those, right?
Yes.
So you're vegetarian, as I get it.
Vegetarian, yeah.
Vegetarian.
A picky vegetarian. I always say I'm a veggie that doesn't really like vegetables that much.
Really? So that's okay.
Yeah, spinach is good. Yeah, spinach is good. I don't know. I turned veggie about 5 years ago, and it was the best thing I've ever done. But growing up, I never really thought there was any other idea to be anything but a meat eater. But I hated food. I never enjoyed eating, and it was because I've now realized that I didn't enjoy all these different meats. I didn't mind chicken, but that was the only one, but all these other meats I just didn't enjoy. And when I turned veggie, all of a sudden I actually enjoy eating now, and I just realized that it's because I actually hated meat in so many different ways, and now, especially nowadays, I think vegetarianism is a lot more friendly than what it used to be. It's like, if you like vegetables, then you could be a veggie. But now there's so many things you can get on the shelves that, although Spain's quite bad for it. Spain's, like, compared to like Tesco or anything, Spain is so bad for veggies.
Yeah.
So like the Linda McCartney's and the corn chicken and
Really?
pieces and stuff like that. Yeah, it's so bad.
Oh.
So that's something I've had to adapt to.
So your suitcase might be bigger a little bit to go back home.
It needs
to go
rest.
to Tesco, Sainsbury's, pick them all up.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm glad I'm okay in a safe zone here with the spinach. Then I have a almond here that you will see I'm putting together with the paste, and then ginger, onion, and garlic blended in there ready, so we don't do any of the blending, and chicken and vegetable stock. Sorry, not chicken. Oh, it's chicken. Just you won't notice. Yeah. And yes, so I'm going to read the first message, and then shortly after that, I'll start making a curry.
Beautiful.
So the first message is: adaptability is your superpower. Change isn't the enemy. Rigidity is. Tell me more about it.
I think this message can be both ways. It can be professional when we look into workplaces and the lack of wanting to change and adapting to change and why it's so important to adapt, but also personally in our lives. And your story will lend to that too, where we have to adapt to new ways of life. We in our life over the course of so many years that we live, we will live different lives within those years only if we allow ourselves to adapt to new ways of living. Because if we live that, I think it was Robin Sharma said that if you live the same day on repeat every year for 70 years and call it a life, it's not a life. But the only way we can live a different life is to adapt to the changing environments that we live in. And that's relationships, friendships, location, whatever it may be. We're constantly adapting, but change is the thing that people fear the most. They don't want to be out of their comfort zone. And I can say that because I've been there. I didn't want to leave my comfort zone in different parts of my life, or I feared the comfort zone. I feared leaving the comfort zone. But one good thing about the police was that change was the only constant.
Mm.
You know, all the time, every single day, the incidents that I dealt with, the laws, the procedures, the policies, everything was changing all the time and adapting. I had to adapt with it. So you had a good relationship with change in the police because of that. It did take a little bit of time to bring that into my personal life too, because I think, especially in a job like the police, you're set up for life. You know, it's your career. That's you. You can do so many different things within that job, but it takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of gumption to escape that life that you may not love, to change, to go out of the comfort zone, and to adapt. And we all adapt in life. And anytime I give my talks, I always say this to people. I'm like, every single one of you adapt. Every single one of you. But can we adapt better? Especially professionally, we can adapt better. Because when we just accept change and just casually go along with it, you're not actually jumping with both feet. You're just casually dipping your toes in and doing it because you've got no choice but to do it. And in our life too, if we just casually accept change and allow change to happen to us rather than with us, then we're not coming from it in a source of strength. It's more coming from a source of survival mode, because we're changing because we have no choice and we just have to do it. But if we change that mindset and actually jump in with both feet, adapt better, adapt quicker, then all of a sudden it's coming from a source of strength, which means that we're in control of our lives, professionally, personally. We're in control, because there's so much that happens in life that you cannot control. You just can't. And life's awful in so many ways and what happens in life. But life's also beautiful because, yes, you may not be able to control those things that happen, but you can adapt to how you live your life after it. You can adapt to the different changing moods, environments, whatever it may be, because we change as people. So don't fight it. Don't fight when you're resisting changing your friendship because you no longer align with that friendship. You think that they're no longer aligning with you. They're no longer supporting you into the person you want to become. It's easy just to accept them, but I'll still keep them in my life. But maybe just talk to them a little bit less or less close to them.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, we should be jumping in with both feet with change and be like, no, actually, I should move on from these friendships. I should actually completely have the confidence to adapt to a new way of life and go, you know what? My path is going to look different and they're no longer in it. But we fear that because there are comforts.
Yeah.
I'm just using this example of friends here because it's a good example, because I think many of us probably have experienced that in our lives.
Yeah, definitely.
Where we hang on to people, we cling on to people that we probably shouldn't cling on to. But it's because we know it, because there's a comfort. And the other side is fear. And change will always bring fear. But just because we fear change doesn't mean it's bad. Because you think of all these things in life that's happened, and all these inventions and new ways of living, new gadgets and all these things. All of these things have been created from a place of fear initially, because that's just what happens, because there's a change and we think, oh no, wait, I'm sure when color TVs came out, all these new gadgets, I'm sure a generation probably thought, oh no, what way is this going to go? And all of a sudden they're ingrained into our life. And we were just talking about AI earlier. AI is ingrained in our life now. Do we not use it at all? Or do we adapt to it and be like, okay, there's ways to use it that actually will benefit us?
Yeah.
And that's why adaptability is the superpower, and it's an underappreciated superpower. And I always say, people, don't just expect that you can adapt no matter what. You can adapt better, and you just have to be mindful. Mindfully ask yourself, what's this taught me? Mindfully ask yourself, how do I adapt better? What do I need to do? What do I need to know? And then all of a sudden, adaptability really does become a superpower.
I really like that adapt better, because as you said, we're all going to have to adapt. And the have tos are not necessarily releasing your superpower. They're just showing that, okay, you're a little bit of a survivor because you need to survive. You go through it almost passively.
Yeah.
you take it because you had no choice, as you said. But evoking change, for example, is quite brave. And I know people don't like change. I'm not used to this. Like people would say, oh, I'm not sure of this. Because you know what people see when there is a big change that they should be evoking, and they are aware, oh, I need to make a change, but they don't. It's because it's quite dark on the other side. You don't see, you have no assurances how it's going to end. So taking that risk, that leap, is quite scary. And to be honest, all the changes that I evoked myself consciously and was really, scared of them, were the best ones. They were, the outcome was, oh my God, if I did not do this, I wouldn't be here, or I wouldn't know you, or I wouldn't be the way I am, and so on. So the conscious, intentional changes that can show you superpowers really nicely. And then the more you do, it becomes, you become a little bit addicted. I was in that stage. Now I'm calming down, but I was in that stage where I constantly try to do different things, and I did not care how they will end up. Because quite frankly, when something really horrific happens in your life, you realize, actually, I was just holding, onto these harnesses of the horse and just let it, take me places. But actually, I am going to control this horse now, and I'm going to do all these changes. So I completely agree that it's a superpower. And once you try it once or twice, you can start using it more. And it's actually, you realize, actually now you're living. Not the life is taking you places. You actually doing the way you want life to be.
You hit the nail on the head there where you say you take control. And it's like a muscle, adaptable. Being adaptable is a muscle. The more you adapt, the more you flex that muscle, the more you build that adaptability muscle. And you do get addicted to it, and you want to adapt better, you want to adapt to more things. And it's because you're getting out of your comfort zone. And the more you get out of your comfort zone, the more addicted it is to be in discomfort, because that discomfort no longer necessarily means discomfort. It's not comfort, yes, but it no longer means that discomfort, what we see discomfort as being. You have a good relationship with discomfort, and I think most people, and I don't think I'm wrong in saying this, most people in life fear discomfort. They try to avoid it.
It's natural for us humans to be scared of that. I think. And it takes, many times certain things take a life-challenging event or something that makes you realize, why am I holding onto this space if there's so much more? At least that's what happened to me. And I hated change, and I was adapting to change, but I was never really kind of forcing something on, purposely. I think I used to be like that, and nothing wrong with that. I was still successful and happy, but now I feel like I'm colorful. It's, if I was trying to describe, I'm a very visual person, so I feel like I have colors now, and the uncertainty is actually quite exciting, because once you can adapt, whatever is in the future that is uncertain, you will know you will adapt. So you're naturally taking those leaps much more often.
And that's it. We all have different core values. And two of my core values are freedom and spontaneity. And with spontaneity especially comes uncertainty, because it goes hand in hand. So I know that when there's uncertain times in my life, it's actually a good thing for me, because it's aligning to my core values. So when something aligns to your core values, then you've got a better relationship with it. So but I say all this stuff, but it's taken me a while to realize it. Like during the time in the police, yes, I was adapting well, and I became more adaptable, but only in a professional capacity. I was still fearing discomfort and change in my personal life, because look, I never wanted to join the police. Never wanted to join. It was never my passion, never my dream. Never ever wanted to. Some people will sit here and be like, it was my dream job and I did it. Never, was not interested. But my family were either military or police. So I always had that idea of what, and I'll say success in inverted commas, but success looked like. Always had this idea of what society would have thought, that's a great career. Oh, good pension, good job, blah, blah, all these things. So I was probably blindsided with all these ideas from family and society about what made someone happy. And I remember I went to university and I was leaving university and I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life. And I remember my brother texted me and he said, by the way, I'm going to apply for the police because they're looking. And he says, are you going to? And I said, well, may as well. Like, where's the harm? Because I didn't know what else I was going to do. And then I put an application in, and 3 months later I was at the college with my brother starting the job. And I look back now and I realize my core values back then were still freedom and spontaneity. But I didn't know that at 22 years old. I didn't know what my core values were. You know, at school, we don't learn about core values. We don't know who we really are. We're following a society. We're following the rat race. This is what we do. And if I had really understood myself a lot more, I would never have joined the police, because I would have realized freedom and spontaneity are two things the police were never going to give me. They just were never going to do it. But I didn't. And then I can't be surprised that it impacted me so negatively, because throughout the 5 years, and I wanted to leave all the time. I looked for jobs, but then I always had this idea of what else could I do? And I would talk to my dad or other colleagues, and they were like, well, what else is out there? Because I studied history at university and I never wanted to do anything with history. And all of a sudden I was getting all these qualifications in the police, but these qualifications were recognized in the police. So you were building a career in the police rather than a career elsewhere. So you felt trapped.
Yeah.
And I felt very trapped. And my mental health spiraled. And I became a person that I didn't like. And I put all that down to the lack of adaptability in my personal life. I didn't have that courage to jump out, even though I was still young. Didn't have that courage. And being in a culture that was completely against my core values. So it was, I think I can sit here now because I've been on the opposite side. I can tell people this is what happens when you go against it and you don't adapt. If you don't get into your discomfort, this is what happens. And this is what I try to preach as much as possible, because I know that it's usually a surefire way to unhappiness, or if not unhappiness, not happiness. Because I heard something recently and it said, I'm not unhappy, but I'm not happy. I thought that was really a powerful phrase, because I think in society we either think we're happy or we're unhappy. You're either or. But there's actually a massive middle ground there where just because you're not, just because you're unhappy, that does not mean you're happy. There can be so many different layers to that.
You're okay.
You're,
okay.
Exactly. And is that what we want in life? Like, is that what we want, just to be okay in the middle? It's not. We want to strive for happiness. So when people say that to me, and I've heard it so many times, where they say, well, I'm not unhappy. So I'm like, but are you happy? And when they say, well, I'm not happy either, then I think, well, you have to then
make that change.
And when you understand that mindset, the change becomes a lot easier.
I think we could continue on this particular message as well, because I know exactly that, because many times when people say, oh, I'm not really enjoying this, and I'm not like, well, what are you doing about it? Yeah. Oh, well, but it's this, and we're always full of excuses of why we're not doing it. But if we focus on excuses, if we focus on why we should be doing, it always outweighs, and it's always scarier, but that's why it's worth doing, because it's scarier.
Exactly.
It's going to take you places.
Exactly.
So we have to move on from this one. And I was going to ask you a few examples of where you think you have taken that biggest leap, but I think perhaps the second message will probably answer that question as well. And if you may refer to some of the examples. So whilst you were talking, I don't know if you're smelling, the people who are not here can smell a lot of garlic, a lot of onion, and variety of spices, which Indian or Asian cuisines come with all these beautiful smells. So I have put the paste now on almonds and onions and garlic and ginger, and I'm just drying them out slightly in the pan to make it in one. Have you done, by the way, paneer korma yourself? No. Okay, so you're not judging me then.
No pressure.
Okay, so this is how it goes. Left hand mixing, just make it in a kind of drier paste, and then I'll put vegetable stock in shortly, and everything will start cooking. So it's actually quite an easy meal. Okay. If you love that,
I like easy.
Yeah.
Easy meals are always the good ones.
It requires a little bit of prep. So actually, working really hard for this yesterday, so I have it all so peacefully prepared. But once you prepare, you can keep the paste, for example, in your fridge. You can use it for different halloumi even.
Yes,
You can use it for chickpeas and squash curries. This one doesn't have any, it only has yogurt and vegetable stock, but sometimes you can put coconut milk with the same paste. It's very quite mild and very smooth. So if you take the recipe and pre-make it in the fridge, you never know, you might start doing it. I have to see if you like it. Okay, so the second message is, your darkest moment doesn't define you. How you rise from it, it does.
Yes.
Tell me more, please.
Yes, we all have difficult moments in our life. We all have dark moments. That darkness will look different to every single one of us. Our crisis will look different to every single one of us. And for me, I will share my experience and then why it relates to this message. Because I've probably hit the darkest of the dark in terms of how I think and what I think is dark. And it was time when, as I was saying to you there, I was unhappy in the police. I was not living a life that I wanted to live. I was accepting a life that I just wasn't happy in. I was accepting creating a different version of myself that I can look back and say I wasn't happy with that version, but I was accepting it. And I was stressed. There was so much pressure, and all the audience I'm sure will know that as a police officer you will deal with high pressurized environments, you will deal with high stressful situations. That's part and parcel of the job, and yes, you have to get used to it. And I never say that the stress is bad because it exists. The stress is only bad because it was chronic and it was excessive and we didn't have the right coping mechanisms. So the workplace culture was one where it was a macho culture where you don't share how you feel. You get on with it, you go again. Our duty is for other people, which I completely get in terms of we have to protect other people. But you can only protect other people if you protect yourself first. And every single one of us, I'm sure, well, most of us did not do that second part. We didn't protect ourselves. Other people had different coping mechanisms, whether it was alcohol or other things. My coping mechanism was just being in a really dark place, and I say it's a coping mechanism, it wasn't, and that's the tongue-in-cheek about that, because it wasn't a coping mechanism. It was being quiet, being insular, being just very reflective, but yet not making any changes. And each time my head hit the pillow each night, I was trying to process emotions. I was trying to process something I dealt with in the job. Could I have done something else to save that person's life? Could I have done a different decision? Could I have made a different decision? These are the things I was thinking about when my head hit the pillow each night. So I wasn't sleeping. I was trying to figure out, could I do things differently? Even though I know in the police, unfortunately, you see horrible things. And for anybody, never mind someone who's young, that's a very difficult thing to do and live with, because you start living with some of your decisions and you start putting blame onto yourself. People are potentially no longer here because you didn't do enough. And that's difficult for anybody to accept. Never mind someone I think who's a bit younger and maybe not as emotionally mature as maybe other people could be at that time. And I hated this trauma, I hated this stress, I hated this life. But I couldn't see any way out. I couldn't see. I was unfamiliar with discomfort in terms of in my personal life, as I said. And one day I saw light at the end of the tunnel. And unfortunately, the light at the end of the tunnel was to take my own life.
Oh my.
That was literally the only way out. That was the only way to stop the darkness, to stop the thoughts, and stop the trauma repeating itself. That was the only way out. And I remember one day in July 2018, I was 25 at the time. I woke up and it was about 3 p.m. and I'd slept all day because I was just a functioning depressive. And I woke up and I thought, this was it, this was the day. And I walked along the hallway to go downstairs in order to take my own life.
Oh my God.
And thankfully, I was met by my dog, Louis, as I walked down the hall. And Louis looked up at me with these big brown eyes that he's got. And he looked at me with those eyes and he gave me one big lick. And it was that lick that just snapped me out of it.
Making me emotional.
It is emotional. It's emotional. Anytime I think about it and talk about it, it's still emotional here. I always feel it in here. It never gets easier. People say it gets easier to talk about. I don't think it does.
It's there. You're just handling, I think, differently.
100%. 100%. It's very difficult to admit that I was that close. And when I think of something so innocent like my dog saving my life and giving me that lick, it's a horrible memory, but it's a memory that I share to hopefully help people because, 25 at the time, thinking that life wasn't worth living. It's knowing how happy I am now. It's quite difficult looking back and admitting to myself that I wanted to end it, and potentially not have been sat here today.
Yeah, eating my curry.
Eating your curry. Like it was a transformational moment. I can honestly, hand on heart, say that I'm only here today because of Louis, my dog. I'm literally only here because of that lick. Because that lick showed me that somebody needed me. And Louis and I did everything together.
Yeah.
And
he's with you still.
He's with me still, yes, thankfully. I don't know what I'll do when he's no longer, but yeah, as I said, I'm very thankful for that moment. And when we talk about the darkness and turning it into a light, and it's about how you respond to it. I didn't live that right then and there. I didn't respond well to that saving moment because I would describe myself as a functioning depressive after that. I didn't just think, I've been given a chance, life's great, I need to now use this to make change. I didn't do that. I still lived the same life. I just was
after that
incident.
Yeah.
I didn't change anything. I just had a reason to live. So I was still sleeping on my days off, wasn't living any form of life. I was showing up for work. My work was never impacted. I was still smiling, laughing, and I'm a naturally smiley, laughy person anyway. And I'd always be like that, even in my darkest times. So nobody ever would have thought, I think Rob's really struggling here. Because I was joking, laughing about with people.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until a couple of years later when I started to actually make that change in my life. Because a couple of years later, life decided to give me another wake-up call because the first one wasn't enough. And it was my last ever shift. Now, I didn't know this would be my last ever shift until I now look back and realize that it was. And my last ever shift, it was a normal 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. early shift, but it was anything but normal. By 9 a.m., I witnessed a 21-year-old male take his own life. And I was there for him as he took his last breaths in this world. And very difficult thing to watch, and I can still visualize it like it was yesterday. Very difficult thing to watch, to be there for, and to be so helpless, so unable to save him. I'm literally just watch him die in front of me. Awful, awful thing. But that shift wasn't done with me yet. You witness something like that and you move on to the next thing because that's what your job is. But 5 hours later, things definitely changed because my colleague had a heart attack on shift and died.
My God.
And my colleague had 29-year service, 1 year left until retirement. And I remember, I get emotional even talking about this. I remember seeing him and the paramedics were giving him CPR to no avail. And I was just thinking and looking at him and thought to myself, what am I doing in my life? He had 29-year service, 1 year left until retirement. And almost like Scrooge in A Christmas Carol, on that shift, I was being shown a potential past, a younger male taking his own life. That could have been me. There I was in the present. And a potential future. Was I going to give 29 years of myself for a job that I didn't like? For a life that didn't make me happy? For what? For a pension that may never come? For a retirement that may never come? And he'd often tell me about his plans for the future, what he was going to do with his wife, the traveling they were going to do. And it made me realize that life is in the present. And my present was an unhappy one. So I owed it to that 21-year-old male, and I owed it to my colleague to make changes. But it was easier said than done. I say this story and I say, I made the changes. It was still hard to make changes, but these two things were my wake-up call. And I had to take some time off work after that, and I started to ask myself all these questions about how I wanted my life to look and how I looked presently and who I wanted to be and what my core values were and all these things. And I made significant changes. I ended a 6-year relationship. I sold my house and quit my job in the space of 2 weeks. You know, it was all of a sudden I saw clearly, I saw the light with those two people in the back of my head, making it clear that I owed it to other people. I owed it to them. I owed it to Louis to actually make changes. And they were difficult, and yes, I was forced. I wasn't forced to, but I was shown a different way.
Yeah.
But I still had to make the changes, and this is why I talk to people about embracing their core values, embracing happiness and their happy life, because I still had to embrace it in myself, and I just realized that the path I was on was not happiness, and I started to question what happiness was to me. And yeah, it was as soon as I realized that I was doing everything opposite, and it was the easiest decision I ever then made when I started to reflect. So these changes were actually easy at the end because I did the hard work to realize who I was and what I wanted to be and how I wanted my life to look. But those two dark moments in my life shaped who I am today, and I'm here today because of them. I did a TEDx talk sharing my experiences when 3 months before doing that TEDx talk, I couldn't share this story without breaking down into tears. You can still see that it's an emotional story, and it will always be an emotional story, but I share it whether it's personally at like these personal well-being events so that people can understand what happiness means, or even in workplaces, because mental health is a big thing in life, and especially in the workplace. And I've been there in a workplace culture where I suffered my mental health because of a workplace culture that did not set you up to thrive.
Yeah.
So now I go into businesses and help them understand, what do we need to do to have a better culture? What do we need to do to help people thrive in their mental health and to adapt better? So it's, as I said, it was dark moments, and you'll be the same with your story, that you'll wish that they never happened. But when you look at who you are today and where you are and what you do, there is a result of those dark moments. So unfortunately in life we will have these dark moments, and we just have to use them to our advantage as much as possible. They will not define us in a negative way, our dark moments, but they can define us in a positive way, because we can use them to make change. We can use them to be a better person. We can use them to find our purpose or whatever it may be. So as long as we use them to define us in a better way rather than in a negative way, then the dark moments can be used in as much as a positive way as they can be. Although I would never wish anybody to go through these experiences themselves. And this is hopefully when I share my story, hopefully they don't have to, because it's maybe an eye-opener or a wake-up call for them. But there will still be dark moments in life.
There will always be. And I view dark moments, it's dark, but they also have light. And we always choose to see dark, choose to see light. The more you see light on a dark moment, which is quite strange or kind of contradictory to look at it that way, but that's what I've done. I looked at that dark moment or dark pain, because the dark moment actually carries an emotion and pain. Yeah. You look at it and see light. So many people have really good way of visualizing things. I would just see it as a ball. It's really dark and it's kind of spinning, and I purposely put light on it until it becomes lighter, and it just becomes light. And I named, let's say it's this, and it helps me to see the light. And naturally you go towards that light, and naturally you stop going towards darkness, because there is no darkness, you eliminate it. And then all these little actions that you do as a result, quite life-changing. And so I think as people, we let it run on us. The dark moments, we let them control again us, or however you want to say, let it rain on us, and we wait for when light comes. Yeah. But we can call the light ourselves. Yes. And in my dark moments, I call that light, and whilst you still go through it, while you still deal with emotions, while it comes back and you still get teary and emotional. But what it is that, it's also carries the light.
Yeah.
And then you can always say, I'm choosing that.
Yeah. And did you have these coping mechanisms and this viewpoint before your darkest moment, or have you learned them as a result of them?
It's a good question. Shall I sit down and
Yeah, I
let's
was
see
about to
then
say,
you
should we
come
change?
cooking? Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure with my cooking skills.
No,
but yeah.
no. I love guests asking me questions. I am consciously doing this, although from my childhood I had
Okay.
a few dark moments and I've done them, but I did not realize until I grew up and looked back and I realized, oh, I was choosing light always. I was visualizing opposite on what's happening, and it made me stronger. So always, if I'm crying and I'm really upset about something, I'm saying that I am really happy and I'm doing something that I love, for example. And I would go to bed visualizing really beautiful things. But I didn't know that was actually is the technique that people use it now. And I didn't realize that. It's just as a child, my coping mechanism was to think something different than what's happening, rather than, because the more I thought of it and it's happening, it made me really sad. And I hated being sad. So I would find ways to be happy. And the more times I did it, it was in a moment like this, 3 seconds, and I switched. So then after my husband passed away and I was in those moments, I was doing them, but I didn't realize that I already did them before. But now I'm consciously doing it and creating this almost like a program in my body to think and feel differently.
And because I know what people will probably think, because I've heard people say this, people may think that by doing that, there's a fine line between ignoring the darkness and not embracing it, or and ignoring it completely, or how do we embrace it in the best way while still viewing it in a positive way? And I think that's the best way to do it, because you're not ignoring it, and you'll have not ignored these pains.
It's impossible, to be honest, to ignore.
Yeah, exactly.
In my view.
And you shouldn't want to, because you can't ignore it. But
unless
it's
somebody
about spinning.
Exactly, and somebody took my memory away. It will always be back. And it will always come back in different ways, in different scenarios, different times of your life. But knowing that you are in control of it, or knowing that you've got this, you know what to do now. And my husband now passed away 5 years ago. It doesn't mean, oh, I'm healed, I'm good. It's never going to be ever the same. There will be always a part in my heart that's going to be hurting me. But as soon as I let it hurt, you have to. And but sometimes when you feel like, oh, it's stopping me from doing something or feeling, now it's the time to step in. So emotions are important, as you would know, to let them go, understand, and masking emotions is not healing. It's like putting an icing on a cake that is really does not taste good. Someone who will cut it in, try it, and say, oh, this is bad. And then what you're going to do? Oh, it's just a bad cake. No, you want the cake to be good, and then the icing good as well. So actually, icing will never be good, but you know what I mean. So no, it's a good point that you brought that up. It's not about ever ignoring it and pushing them away, because as humans, we carry memories, and memories attached to emotions and feelings, and any memory can evoke any emotion. It's about letting it play and letting it almost like be powerful, that you can manage all of them, happy and not.
That's the goal.
In my view, So, Rob, we're nearly approaching the end, and korma is done.
Okay, it smells amazing.
Smells good, right?
Yeah.
Good. This is done. I'm just leaving it now on a very low heat, and I'm going to make this magic flatbread that my partner did not approve yesterday.
No, did he not?
He said, no, could be better.
Okay, well, constructive criticism.
Yes, he does do that. And to be honest, so many times I cook something and I say, okay, let's try again. There's something about flatbread. I'm just don't want to try again.
Okay.
I try, and they never come out right. And maybe because I'm not using the right pan. When you're in Indian restaurants, they just do these metal ones. They kind of slightly bend like a circular. I don't know what they call them. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name, but they put these breads on and they just come out puffy and delicious. So This is not that
No,
kitchen.
okay, no worries. So it's not going to be a peshwari naan. It's not going to be
No
that level, is
pashwari,
it?
no. But there are almonds in there,
Okay,
so
it's
you
good,
know, a little bit marzipan
Yes.
flavors will be there for you.
I love the sweetness. I love the korma, and then get me a peshwari naan with the sweet. Love,
No.
love sweet.
I totally agree, but there will be no pashwari here. And when we order Indian, pashwari is our bread as well.
Oh,
We
so
always,
good.
my
It's
son
so
loves
good.
it.
Yeah.
Not going to attempt to make it. Well,
Yeah,
you never know,
one day.
you never know. Anyway, time is running out. We have a third and final message. I'm really enjoying this conversation. So thank you so much for sharing your emotional moments. It slipped because I wanted to say this earlier, but it's very important that we do that. And certain things happen for a reason, as you say. And you being vulnerable and showing is exactly what we're going to talk about in the third message. So vulnerability is a leadership strength, not weakness.
Yes. Like within the police, I was a leader in my own right, where I was a tutor constable. So I was training some of the new recruits that would come through the door. And I wasn't showing any level of vulnerability. Obviously, I was in a dark place in my own life anyway, but I wasn't showing any level of vulnerability. But I'd always ask them to be like, are you okay? How are you doing? Stuff like that. And I'd get the responses that usually I'd probably give to. And I realized that something can be very powerful. One simple thing can be very powerful that we need to change in the workplaces and even in our life. And it's this question, how are you? Now, I've heard people say, instead of saying how are you, why don't we say how are you really? To be honest with you, if someone said that to me, I still would probably give them that same answer back. I wouldn't open up because they've said one additional word. But for me, I always think that we have to take that responsibility of how we answer the question properly. So if we've got this British culture of when we say how are you, and someone says I'm good, thanks you, and they say I'm good, thanks, end of conversation. Or how are you? I'm fine, thanks. Well, yeah, I'm fine, thanks. End of conversation. But instead, we need to actually change our answer. So if I say how are you, it's you know what? It's actually been a really stressful week. It's been really busy, lots of deadlines, but I'm getting through it. But yeah, a lot of stress. All of a sudden, if I then say, what about you back? I bet your answer to me will not be I'm good or I'm fine. Because I've opened up some form of open communication. Now, I'm not saying it gets into an open counseling session in the canteens at work or wherever it is, but that simple thing of how are you and us changing our responses to it, that is the powerful thing. Because vulnerability breeds vulnerability. In a leadership capacity, in a personal capacity, anywhere in our lives, any aspect of our lives, having that vulnerability can actually save people's lives. Because it can. Because yet again, if I've just responded to that question, all of a sudden you're now going to tell me something more than I'm good and I'm fine. That's when you then get into the nitty gritty and be like, maybe actually somebody needs help. Because maybe you can see it in them and you've said, how are you? And they've just said, I'm fine. You're like, I know there's not, but I can't get there. Well, next time they say, how are you? Why don't you be that person to change your answer and then put it back to them? And I can guarantee you their response will change. Something so simple, something that we do every single day, answer the question, how are you?
Yeah.
And I challenge everybody, and I do this in my talks, I challenge them all to just think the next time somebody asks them, how are you? Because I can guarantee you they all want to be like, yeah, I'm good, or I'm fine. They always want to do it. I always say, just check yourself, just for a second. Check yourself about how you've just answered that question, and then answer it differently. I think that will bring vulnerability. The best leaders earn their leadership every day by doing simple things like that. Just, not an open counseling session, not telling everybody all your problems, just opening up a line of communication saying that you're stressed, or, it's been really busy. I'm really tired actually. Something different. That, I believe, can make the world of difference in the workplace and just even in our relationships, our day-to-day relationships with our friends and stuff like that. That is so powerful.
I think it certainly would stop us talking about the weather then.
Yeah, definitely. I know. What would we do if I told about the weather?
You meet someone and talk about the weather.
Yeah, exactly.
But how are you, Rob, then?
I'm very tired. I've got a broken toe and I'm very tired.
Broken toe. I did offer you eyes.
Yes,
but
yes.
I guess, you know,
Wasn't
icing
gonna
your
work.
toe while doing a podcast
Yeah, what's
is
going to work?
probably.
I don't think people need to see that up there. Raise it.
I am
But
a
yeah.
little bit tired
Are
too,
you okay?
but I am all good,
Okay.
nevertheless.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, I'm really happy.
Like, that's good. But like, there we go. We've opened up something that you know something more about me, and I know something more about
Yeah.
you, rather than I'm good. Because
Exactly.
are we ever just good? Are we ever just fine?
No, it's always something going
There's
on.
always something.
Yeah.
There's always something. And the best leaders that I've seen are the ones who are willing to be open to their staff without thinking that they can't show vulnerability because they're their line manager or anything like that. You can show vulnerability in a different way without sharing too much. So vulnerability is a superpower. We go back to that number one point. That was adaptability is a superpower. But we go back to the superpowers. Adaptability and vulnerability in in workplace and in our life. If you master those two things, I feel like you've got a very good basis to be able to live a life that you love, but also a career that you love, and create a culture within that workplace that is a culture where people thrive. Those two things, to master those two things, is integral.
I think I was just referring to in my thoughts as you were telling, in my career in banking and various professional places, not many people opened up and told me how they feel. And it was an environment of staying strong, ambitious, not showing any of the vulnerability whatsoever. And you were worried to open up because how are they going to see you? Will they think you're weak? And now vulnerability, I hope next generations and even current leaders, they see that vulnerability is a strength, and to open up like yourself, to say this is where I was and this is how I felt and this is what I was going to do, actually making you stronger, powerful, and more inspirational. Exactly. So, and the times where I had managers to open up, saying really bad, not feeling good, I would love to go home, you know, and you like connected that moment, and then the next day you almost like two completely different people.
100%.
You made a connection.
Yes, exactly.
That is unbreakable, and it grows from there.
Yeah, and the world's changing, and I think managers, leaders, they have to change with it. And this is the future. Yes, you know, the police, banking, finance in general, these are high pressurized environments, but showing a little bit of vulnerability, as you say, can create that connection that then they can get the results that they need and they want in terms of the financial results and things like that and productivity, by just opening up that tiny bit more and being open with their staff, because all of a sudden you gain respect, appreciation, and people know that they're working for somebody who's human at the end of the day. And people now, these managers who don't say anything and are very stoic and never share, there are things of the past. So managers, leaders out there, they either have to adapt or they get left behind.
I couldn't agree more. Rob, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
For being such a wonderful, vulnerable, open and honest person for all of us here to be inspired. And I know there is so much more, so many more dark moments that I appreciate you did not share here, because I would have cried.
Yeah.
But whatever you shared with us, I hope it was inspirational to others as much as to me. Yeah. So keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here. Your curry is ready.
It looks amazing.
I'll serve you very shortly. I just wanted to say thank you. All your beautiful messages here, everything will go online, and all your details as well will go online. Thank you for being here, and enjoy this paneer korma curry with flatbread that doesn't look too bad.
Brilliant.
And white rice on the side, which I'll give you more if you run out.
Perfecto. Thank you so much. It looks incredible. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here, and thank you everyone for watching us. Bye-bye.